power. You want a lot of it, but you don't have much dinero to do it? You're in the right place, because in this video, I'm gonna show you 8 cheap cars with unlimited tuning potential, representing all different types of engines, including 4 cylinders, 6s, 8s, even 10 bangers, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, and even all-wheel drive. Naturally aspirated animals, supercharged beasts, and even turbo monsters. So, if you're new here, I'm Brad Danger. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. We're dropping new vids pretty much every single day. And buckle up, let's go. All right, I got a question for you. When you think about horsepower, I bet you think of turbos, superchargers, and nitrous? Oh my. But what if I were to tell you that there's a car from the factory with 500 horsepower out of the gate for cheap? You'd probably think that I was lying, but I only lie horizontally, especially if I told you that it was naturally aspirated too. And that's the case with the E60 BMW M5. But the fun doesn't stop at stock. Oh no, because this is a list of cars with tuning potential, and the E60 M5 sure has a lot of tuning potential. Thanks in part to its naturally aspirated V10, inspired by an F1 car engine, the 5-liter V10 revs all the way to an insane 8,250 RPM redline, which leaves us for plenty of room to make power. Now, since the E60 M5 is naturally aspirated, you have plenty of different options to make power. If you want to stay naturally aspirated, you can throw in a stroker kit from Dynan, which bores that 5-liter V10 all the way up to 5.8 liters. And that will take the horsepower from 500 to about 630. But you know that forced induction is just a phone call away. And if that's your route, you can add a turbo or even supercharge your V10 monster if you're absolutely crazy. Which at this point, you'd be crazy not to subscribe to Ideal Cars, because, well, they might not be the cheapest option on our list. Turboing or supercharging a V10 not only sounds absolutely insane, but it also goes like crazy. Almost every time producing at least 1,000 horses. But for some people, that just isn't enough. And considering that you can pick one up with 500 horsepower for under 14 grand, that just begs the question, why wouldn't you? And well, I've even considered it, but I haven't bought one yet, and for good reason, because the rod bearing issue, it plagues these motors. But luckily, for our next pick, the Focus ST doesn't fare with as many issues as your ex-girlfriend. Starting with a mere 252 measly horses. The itty-bitty 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder doesn't pack that big of a punch stock. But with just a tune, you can up that number by roughly 50 horses before any other mods. And then you add a bigger turbo and crank up that boost, and you've got yourself one hell front-wheel drive tire shredder. And unlike the BMW, the Focus actually has been known to be a reliable car. So if something goes wrong, it can be serviced for cheap at your local Ford dealer. But if you want to turn up the boost and push the limits on the block, these motors can handle 500, 600, and even 700 plus horsepower if combined with the proper drivetrain mods. Well, all you gotta do is throw on a pair of grippy tires and you'll have a hard time finding a more fun car to rip around the back roads with. Because thanks in part to its well-balanced chassis and its smooth shift-in 6-speed manual, and heck, if you wanna save the manuals, go check out our best-selling Ideal T up here. Because with all that in mind, I bet you think it probably costs as much as the M5, right? Well, it costs about half of what the M5 costs today, because you can pick up a Focus ST for just 7,500 bucks. But I bet the Focus, especially with the power, won't handle the snow all that well. I bet you had a Quattro all-wheel drive system, like our next car on this list, the B5 Audi S4, it would handle incredible in the snow. Built like tanks and engineered to the German standards, the B5 S4 is one of the best sports car sedans to come out of Germany. And thanks in part to its small structure paired with the Quattro system, it handles like it's on rails. But that's not even the best part. It's the absolute star of the show is the power plant. You see, that engine was taken from its bigger brother, the Audi A6, but it just wasn't enough, so Audi altered it a bit. They started with a big 2.8 liter V6, and then they added not one, but two turbos. And while they are small, they are good for 250 horses. But developers wanted to over-engineer this engine, so they actually de-stroked the motor, took it from a 2.8 liter to a 2.7, and thickened the block so it would be able to handle that boost. So, to the tuner, this is delightful because this new 2.7 liter design is able to hold a whole lot of power. With a stock block and just bigger turbos, 500 plus wheel horsepower is definitely in your reach. But just do a little bit more work and you can easily double that number. And yes, I think we can all agree that making these numbers is not gonna be cheap, but you can pick up a B5 S4 for cheap because, well, you're only gonna spend 7,500 bucks. A B5 S4 wagon will cost about double what a sedan costs. But these are really cool cars, and even Ed Bullion from VinWiki had one. But the problem is reliability issues also plague these cars. So our search for more cars takes us back stateside into the Chevy Cobalt SS. Now, while I think I agree with you, the Cobalt SS might not be the most exciting car, sporting only 205 horses from the factory, there is a lot more that can be done to up that number. From the factory, GM's Ecotec engine comes with a root supercharger strapped onto the front of it. Throw on a smaller pulley, a solid tune, and injectors, and you're looking at gaining almost 100 horses. But you could just go full send and go up to 1,000 horsepower with a turbo swap, or more if you just boost it to the moon. In fact, the Ecotec engine in the Cobalt holds the world record for the fastest 4-cylinder down the drag strip. It ran a quarter mile in less than 6 seconds. That's about 3 seconds faster than any production car. I'm talking Bugatti, Koenigsegg, Pagani, all from an engine in a car that only costs $4,500. So why not take one and make it super fast? If you want a luxurious interior and arguably a more prestigious ownership experience, an old entry-level Chevy might not cut it for you. But what about a fully loaded Mercedes AMG?
Whoa, what?
The Chevy Cobalt is a cute little car in comparison to the beast that the Mercedes E55 AMG is. From the factory, the AMG has a beastly 5.4 liter supercharged engine with 475 horsepower and 520 foot-pounds of tire shredding torque. And it comes with wood trim, heated seats, and other luxuries that other cars on this list wouldn't even dream to have. The torque that comes in part to the massive supercharger, but throw on a smaller pulley and full exhaust and some bigger injectors and you're looking at some serious pulling power. That is an E55 AMG towing a riding lawnmower, putting bus lengths on a modified 350Z. With all this luxury and power, I bet you'd expect a bigger price tag than what it costs, because these are cheap. You can get an AMG for less than 10 grand. And unlike the M5 that we mentioned earlier, these E55 AMGs were built to last, and many of them crossing 200 and even 300,000 miles. Our next car is also known to last long, and it comes from the land of the free, the home of the brave, from the factories of freedom. Dodge Neon, SRT4 that is though. In stock, these aren't pushing much more than your mom's Camry, but if you were to throw on a turbo, it would be a much different story. These SRTs are built to take a lot of abuse. I'm talking turbos the size of your head. Build that block and really the only thing you're gonna be battling is traction. Because if built properly, these Neon SRT4s will do an under 8-second quarter mile. And if tuned for top speed, these Neons will hit over 230 miles per hour. So it's fair to say that these things can scoot. With a bit of time, patience, and parts paired with a proper tune, a Neon SRT4 would be really hard to beat. For less than 9 grand, I wonder if there's a better car for the money. Well, I'm glad you asked, because Mazda enthusiasts, they would probably say so, as they got the Mazda Speed 3 to count on. And these tout little hatches love power. Throw some mods on its peppy 2.3 liter Turbo 4, and you're gonna be able to take your hot hatch from mild to wild. Stock, it pushes out 263 horses, but add some bolt-ons and you're looking at around 400 or 500 wheel horsepower. Build the block and crank the boost for some 1,000 power fun. But just beware with that much power. You'll be doing more steering with your gas pedal than you will with the actual steering wheel. And throw on some drag slicks and you'll be hooking up and running down the strip in under 10 seconds. And the hatchback brings an added practicality to the mix, so you can transport not only yourself, like 4 other friends and one of their dogs. And considering that you can pick these up regardless of which generation for less than 6 grand is just plain old crazy. But what do you gotta do if you know that there is no replacement for displacement? Well, you buy an LS. And one of the best cars with an LS is the Pontiac GTO. And you probably know, but the LS is Chevy's small block V8, packed with a punch. And for the case of the LS1 that's in the GTOs, out of the box, they come with a fairly impressive 350 horsepower, but things go up from there. You'll get 450 with cams and a tune, and 500 horsepower is achievable naturally aspirated. Strap on a supercharger for around 800 horses of fun. Add a turbo, and that power can crest the 4-figure mark. The GTO is one of the best platforms for tuners and enthusiasts alike because of the endless possibilities you can take with these cars, considering the aftermarket support. Throw in some boost or nitrous and the car's gonna stay reliable because these LS motors were made to take a beating. And for just less than 10 grand, this might be the ideal cheap car on this list. So let me know in the comments, which one are you guys taking? And if you like the vid, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe, turn on that notification bell. I've been Brad, and well, I'm always gonna be Brad, and this is Ideal, and promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.